quarter of a mile, turn right onto Bath Road, A4. Turn right onto Bath Road, A4. Continue on Bath Road for 3/4 of a mile.
£34 million Sutton Place in Surrey, as it says here. He was the Arsenal shareholder. Also has a yacht worth just around £450 million. Had his private jet as well. Did we move? I admit the jet and the ship are not here in the UK, but those properties are. Did we move quick enough? Veteran Labour MP Dame Margaret Hodge, a former minister, also chairs the all-party parliamentary group on corruption, has been one of the leading critics of the government's sanctions regime. Here she is speaking in the House of Commons last month, talking about oligarchs such as Usmanov.
There are serious flaws in the new sanctions regime. It may not affect oligarchs close to Putin who do not hold an official position in the company or own less than 50% of shares. It's too narrow in defining the individuals it covers. That means that kleptocrats who have stolen from the Russian people and support Putin would not be caught. Of Navalny's list of 35, only 30 would be caught.
In a quarter of a mile, at Huntercombe roundabout, take the first exit onto Huntercombe Spur heading to M4, London.
At the sanctions regime, so that in the words of the Foreign Secretary, nothing is off the table.
Everybody yes-yesing in the background, but it didn't bring direct action. Just days later, Putin invaded Ukraine, started the war. Boris Johnson addressed the nation saying he would be going further than previously promised and do everything he could regarding those sanctions.
Today, in concert with our allies, we will agree a massive package of economic sanctions designed in time to hobble the Russian economy. And to that end, we must also collectively cease the dependence on Russian oil and gas that for too long has given Putin his grip on Western politics.
And let's briefly hear from Foreign Secretary Liz Truss speaking earlier this month.
We are absolutely determined to sanction Russian oligarchs. We've already sanctioned over 100 individuals and organisations. We've got a further list we are working through. We have put in place the toughest...
Exit the roundabout onto Huntercombe Spur.
...British history. I'm very clear that legal threats will have no impact
left at the fork.
Alexander Rodnayansky, who's presidential advisor to Ukrainian President Zelensky, joins me now. Thank you for coming on, sir. Is it too little, too late?
In a quarter of a mile, merge onto M4.
Thanks for having me. Well, actually, I think so. I've been pushing and I've been saying that these sort of individual targeted sanctions have been way long overdue. So they should have been introduced many years ago after the annexation of Crimea, because they're especially effective in putting pressure on the Russian regime, or on any regime of that sort, over the years in the medium run, giving it incentive to change, putting pressure on the elites to change the regime. Now, that doesn't mean these sanctions are useless now. They still should be introduced, and on a much larger scale. You shouldn't be just targeting the people at the very top, because the people...
Continue on M4 for 7 miles.
They know what's coming. They've been preparing. Many of them don't even have accounts or credit cards in the West. But people in their vicinity, those are the ones, the shadow oligarchs, they are the ones who are holding their true wealth, and they should be also targeted.
Unfortunately, the ships have sailed, the jets have been scrambled to other places. What to do now, would you say, Mr. Rodnayansky?
Well, it's hard to say where they've scrambled these jets to other places. I think it shouldn't be just Britain, it should be the whole collective West synchronizing these targeted sanctions. We still see for some reason that the lists differ a lot between the US, the UK, the EU. There are still gaps. Certain oligarchs are targeted in one place, not targeted in another place. All of this should be synchronized. The list should be made much more extensive, and we should be doing more much quicker.
Not wishing to cause you any upset, but if we're dealing with someone who is so deranged that he will order for maternity hospitals to be bombed, for protesters to be shot down in the streets, for schools to be bombed and care homes, I don't wish to cause you any distress. Do you honestly think he cares that some of his buddies might have their yachts seized?
Look, at this stage, as I said, this is insufficient. This was really important 5 years ago, and it would have put pressure on the regime. It would have perhaps incentivized a change in the regime. But now, this is still important, but it's insufficient. Now we need to stop the war, as you correctly point out, and for that we need to introduce much tougher, wider sanctions, not targeted sanctions, but wider sanctions. And the most important thing that's still outstanding here is the oil and gas embargo in Europe. Well, Europe is still purchasing gas from Russia, and that's still financing their war efforts.
Lastly, when did you speak with the president, and how would you characterize his mood?
I spoke to him just 2 days ago, so yeah, just 2 days ago. He was in a good mood, good spirits, morale is very high, we're pushing through, and we're doing our job.
It's an incredible performance. Leaders around the world have hailed him. What sustains Volodymyr Zelensky, would you say? What keeps him going?
Well, like any of us, we believe in our victory, we believe the truth is on our side, and we can't give up our country, so that's what sustains us.
Privilege speaking with you. Thank you for your time so early in the morning. Alexander Rodnayansky is presidential advisor to Ukrainian President Zelensky, speaking about that. Let's get more into the economic side of that. You can understand, and I think many of us would agree, if we had our time over, we should have operated these sanctions. So that was West, by the way, earlier. Julia Friedlander is a senior fellow and director of the Economic Statecraft Initiative at the Geo-Economic Center, and a former official with the US Treasury Department, as she joins us from Washington. Is there a history that we can look at, in the past, a precedent that shows these sanctions can actually work? Good morning to you.
Good morning. Thanks for having me. Yes, I think that we have to judge sanctions not only in what they can do over the immediate term, but also what they can do to degrade the Russian economy and degrade the Russian military supply over the coming weeks and months. Sanctions have never been implemented at this scale before, never mind on a large economy like Russia. So I think we have to modify our expectations that you can use sanctions in the place of military intervention. But I think accompanying the large-scale arming of Ukraine that the West has done, sanctions of this scale will have an impact on Russia's ability to pursue this war. They are standing on the brink of a currency crisis, potentially of a sovereign default, taking away the war chest, quote-unquote, that Putin has amassed to be able to pursue
any sense, it leaves a bad taste in the mouth, if you will, that now regular Russians, I read, are reporting there are problems with food, there are problems of supply. So ordinary Russian citizens are now on the receiving end. How fair is that?
I think it's the unfortunate byproduct of any strong sanctions regime. And I think to a certain point, the West hoped to exclude ordinary Russians from such pressure. Some of the sanctions even excluded some of the strongest restrictions on the Sberbank, for example, the bank where most Russians hold their assets. But when it comes down to it, if you were attempting to isolate a country the way we are with Russia, sending them back to some version of post-1990, isolating the economy over the course of days and weeks, then there are going to be effects on everyday Russians.
Grateful for your time. Thank you, Juliet. Juliet Friedlander is Senior Fellow Director of the Economic Statecraft Initiative at the Geoeconomic Center and served as a department official with the US Treasury, joining us from Washington, as I said. All right, coming up after the news, too little too late, you'll have your opportunity to speak on that. Closing to LBC 716 news breaking at this time, but again, very much related to what we're talking about, the spring statement. The inflation rate now has been moved up in February from 5.5 in January to 6.2% in February. That, I'm being told, is the highest level in some 30 years. More pressure on the Chancellor. We'll look at that later. 7:16, so LBC News headlines, Simon Conway.
Ahead of today's spring statement, figures...
In 2 miles, at junction 4B, exit towards M3, M23.
Ukraine's president has accused Russian forces of blocking a humanitarian convoy trying to reach Mariupol. World number one Ashley Barty has announced her retirement from tennis, aged just 25. LBC weather, dry, warm and sunny for most, a high of 20 degrees.
LBC Travel, I'm Joanne Webb. The A13 is closed westbound between North Stifford and the Lakeside turn-off. It's because a lorry has overturned and there are queues from Stamford La Hope. Also delays on the M25 anti-clockwise between junctions 10 at the A3 and 9 at Leatherhead. It's because of an accident where 2 lanes are closed. Restrictions continue on the M20 both ways between junctions 8 at Leeds Castle and 9 at Ashford. That's because of Operation Brock. In Bromley, Westmoreland Road stays closed both ways, and that's because the emergency repair works are still taking place after a sinkhole. On the underground, there are minor delays on the District Line between Edgware Road and Wimbledon, and on the Central Line, Holland Park Station and Greenford stations are both closed.
This is LBC. It's the most wonderful time of the year.
In 300 yards, at junction 4B, exit towards M3, M23. Exit at junction 4B, then keep right at the fork. Keep right at the fork. Continue on M25 south for 1.5 miles. In 1/4 mile, at junction 14, use the left 2 lanes to take the A3113 exit to Heathrow Airport. Use the left 2 lanes to exit at junction 14, then keep right. Keep right. Continue for 1/2 mile. In 1/4 mile, at the roundabout, take the first exit onto Airport Way, A3113. In 1/4 mile, at the roundabout, take the second exit onto Southern Perimeter Road. Exit the roundabout onto Southern Perimeter Road. In 300 yards, at Western Perimeter Road roundabout, take the second exit and stay on Southern Perimeter Road. Exit the roundabout onto Southern Perimeter Road. Continue on Southern Perimeter Road for 1.5 miles. In 1/4 mile, at the roundabout, take the third exit onto Beacon Road. Exit the roundabout onto Beacon Road. In 100 yards, at the roundabout, take the second exit onto Stanwell Road. Exit the roundabout onto Stanwell Road. In 1/4 mile, turn right onto Great Southwest Road, A30. turn right onto Great Southwest Road, A30. In a quarter of a mile, at Clockhouse Roundabout, take the first exit onto Staines Road, A315. In 200 yards, turn right onto Hatton Road. Turn right onto Hatton Road, then turn left onto Staines Road. Turn left onto Staines Road, A315. In a quarter of a mile, at the roundabout, continue straight to stay on Staines Road, A315.